Hello everyone, how are we all doing? My name is Trevon from freestudiotime.com. Today we're going to be going over a few recording tips to ensure that your mix and master comes out as good as you want it to be. So with that being said, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is how loud you record each specific vocal take. So before your eyes, I have an unfinished song. I want you to take a look at each specific vocal take. Notice how on almost all of these vocal takes, the loudness level don't touch any of these bars down here. There's only a few instances where they actually do, which is right here where it barely touches it and right here where it's definitely touching it. But let me just show you an example of why you don't want your vocals touching these lines right here.
You just stay looking right. I'ma stay being wrong. Cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. But I know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. Oh no, I'm gonna be here, I'm just trying to catch control. You just stay being tight, I'ma stay being wrong. Cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. Cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill.
So if you were listening closely enough, you would notice that whenever this audio take right here touches these bars, you would hear a little bit of distortion. Now when it comes to distortion like this, it's definitely a bit more on the minor side. And when it comes to mixing and mastering, there's definitely ways that you can fix that problem. In a case where you may have just recorded a one-of-one pristine vocal take, I say just leave it in there. But if not, and you think you can record it better, I say just record it better and make sure that these bars are not touching. And that rule applies even more if each specific audio clip that you have throughout your entire song looks like this one right here. The reason why I say that is because if your entire song looks like this right here, you're gonna have a really hard time mixing and mastering it yourself if you're not already at an expert level. An expert might not have that hard of a time fixing it, but you probably will. And in order to fix things like that, you normally need to use a bit of pricey plugins. So I say really just try to avoid recording too loud. Two solutions to this is either recording 6 to 12 inches away from your microphone. Second is turning the gain down on your audio interface. Next super useful thing I wanted to go over with you all is recording vocal stacks. So if you don't know what stacks are, they're pretty much just replicas of the original vocal take. We use stacks to either make our songs sound a lot more fuller and bolder, or just make specific parts of our songs stand out more than others to create a bit of a more interesting mix. Let me give you a little bit of an example of this. Before I play this song, I want you to recognize that these up here are my original vocal takes and everything down here is pretty much just stacks. I have about 4 stacks for each of these vocal takes right here, so let's just go ahead and take a listen.
Stay looking right, I'ma stay being wrong. Cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. But I know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. Oh no, I'm gonna be here, I'm just trying to catch control.
So what I did for these vocal stacks over here was record 2 separate vocal takes at the same pitch of my original, and then I came down an octave lower and recorded 2 more audio takes of the original clip. Now keep in mind that this is before everything is mixed in. The song is not even finished yet, but once we turn these stacks down in the mix and get it to blend accordingly, it will sound really nice. Just notice the stacks complemented the original vocal really nicely. It made the song sound a lot more interesting and pleasurable to listen to. Now there's a bunch of different ways to record vocal stacks. I personally say just do what sounds best for you. You have to do a bit of experimenting. As far as the amount of vocal takes you should record, it really just depends on you. You can either do 1, 2, but normally you want to make sure that you record a specific amount to the point where it won't be overwhelming. But with that being said, there is some artists like Ariana Grande that record 100 vocal stacks in order to get their song to sound good. Or artists like Lil Peep that record 16 vocal takes in order to get their song to sound good. But at the end of the day, it really just depends on what type of sound you want out of your song. Third thing I wanted to go over with you all is making sure you throw on that auto-tune and reverb while you record. Reason why I think this is so important is because first off, it's going to allow you to explore a bunch of different melodies. Now before, I didn't used to do this and I just used to do it without the auto-tune and the reverb, but my melodies sounded a lot more bland compared to how they do now. And I know auto-tune isn't for everybody, so this tip may not apply to everyone, but I say the people that really like to use auto-tune on their songs, make sure that you record with auto-tune on. It's going to allow you to be a lot more experimental and expressive, which is what people really enjoy out of making music. The second reason you should record with auto-tune and a reverb on is so you have a closer idea as to how the song will sound once it's fully mixed and mastered. Now when it comes to recording a song, you can pretty much tell right off the bat whether it's going going to come out good or bad just based on how it sounds with the raw vocals. In the past, I was led to believe that even if it sounded kind of bland before the mix and master, I could probably make it sound a whole lot better once it was all finished. But at the end of the day, the best way I like to describe this is like putting a dress on a trash bag. Throwing a bunch of different special effects on your mix will not make it a hit. That's why I like to throw in auto-tune and get a feel for a bunch of different melodies before I actually get to mixing and mastering my song. Now when it comes to setting this up, there's a few things that you should be aware of. You want to make sure you're getting as low latency as possible, because with each VST you throw in here, the worse the latency is going to get. A few ways to combat this is by making sure your buffer length is at a pretty low length while recording. While recording, I normally have my buffer length at about 3 milliseconds. Another thing to be aware of is when you're using auto-tune, you want to make sure that you come up here to a low latency in the settings, and this reduces the amount of latency that you get from recording with auto-tune on your track. The third useful tip I wanted to go over with recording for you all is making sure you record in a semi-treated, isolated room. So when recording from a home studio, which 99% of people are doing nowadays, the main issue that we come across is having background noise enter the microphone, which eventually seeps into the mix and master if not handled properly. Now, most beginner mix and master engineers don't really know how to handle this problem very well. So before it even gets to the point of us pushing that problem on the mix and master engineer, it's best to handle it ourselves as best as we possibly can. So to handle this problem, some people like to record in a closet. Another way people handle this problem is by recording with the Chaotica eyeball. If you don't know what the Chaotica eyeball is, it's a $200 piece of equipment that surrounds your microphone with a nice thick layer of foam. What this is going to do is drastically reduce the amount of background noise entering your microphone. And then there's some people that record in a room filled with a bunch of different layers of foam on their wall. It doesn't really matter what method you use as long as you don't really have all that background noise entering your microphone, because once it goes onto the mix and master engineer, it's going to be a lot harder of a problem to get solved. So in order to give you an example of this, I'm going to play this song for you without all the effects on, just for you to hear how there's barely any background noise present inside of the vocal recording. Now, I actually recorded this with the Chaotica eyeball on and in a closet to really reduce the amount of background noise I'm getting inside the microphone. Now, the most background noise you may hear out of this is literally just the beat playing in the background a little bit, but in most cases this is going to be present regardless, and you really don't need to worry about it because this will get absolutely filtered out once you mix and master.
You just stay looking right, I'ma stay being raw, cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. Bet I know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill. Oh no, I'm gonna be here, I'm just trying to catch a cup full. You just stay being tight, I'ma stay being raw.
So as you just heard, these are some pretty solid vocal takes. The most you heard from those vocal takes is the actual beat playing from my headphones, but other than that, you really didn't hear too much going on. And I also should make you all aware that there is a little bit of music playing in the background right now if you listen. I just wanted to make you all aware that that is not coming from the actual vocal takes. Now, last tip I wanted to go over with you all that is mainly directed towards your lyricism instead of the engineer is actually recording in takes, or punching in as some others would call it. All this is just making up lyrics on the spot for your song. And in the beginning, it doesn't even need to involve lyrics. It can just be mumbling, and then you can put words into the mumbling. For instance, let me play this part for you again.
You just stay looking right, I'ma stay being raw, cause we both know you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the dollar bill.
So literally, that part right there started off as it was just absolute nonsense. All I did was just come in there, put a little bit of words to it, and it sounded like that. Now, using this method is the best way to make songs in my personal opinion. Before, I used to just listen to the beat and try to write to the songs accordingly. But with the songs that I made like that, I turned out to focus more on lyricism and not how the whole product sounds. Every song that I've recorded using this method has just turned out to be my absolute best songs. And the main reason why this is because it allows you to blend in a little bit better with the beat. You're more in tune with what's going on in the songs, so you can make different melodic decisions more accurately. And on top of that, it's best to piece together the lyrics to your song one by one instead of trying to think about the lyrics for your song all at one time. But alright everyone, those are a few tips I think you should use to make your life easier. If you're not a mix and master engineer, their lives easier as well. But if you're a beginner interested in learning how to mix your song with stock VSTs, the ones inside of your digital audio workstation right now, I'm going to show you how to use all of those professionally. I'm going to give you a detailed breakdown on each individual component of every single step of the way to make sure you understand exactly what you're doing, just to save you a little bit of time of scattering across YouTube for the information only to still be left confused by the very end. I want to make this process really easy for you, so make sure you hit the video down below so I can give that to you. By doing this, I can ensure that you will be a lot better of a mix engineer than before you came. So make sure you hit the video down below. I hope you got a lot of value out of this video, everyone. If you did, make sure to hit like. Also, make sure to hit subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one.